Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to another dose of Thursday Night Thrills, courtesy, of course, of the iRacing Creator Series. And for the first time this season, well, we're venturing beyond the United States, from the blistering brickyard to the foothills of Mount Fuji. We're blasting across the globe and touching down at the iconic, I think I'm right in saying, no discrepancies there, Fuji Speedway for the fourth chapter of the Creator Series, Multi-Class Mayhem. Very, very exciting. Certainly looking forward to this one. And once again, commandeering commentary corner for tonight's action. Myself, Tom Wilkinson. Alongside me, John Harris, also known as Eyes Amusing. And John, well, we've had 3 utterly enthralling rounds to kickstart the season. I think I'm right in saying it feels like the bar just keeps getting raised higher and higher and higher. Armand Duplantis style, if you will. Can we expect more of the same tonight?
I think so. Honestly, everybody's getting into the championship, so they're pushing harder and harder. We saw that last time out at Indianapolis. And I think, honestly, this course is very tricky. It's iconic, as you said, and it's that for a reason. You've got a really ultra-long straight with a heavy braking zone into turn 1 hairpin. But after that, if you haven't cooked the tyres in that turn 1, it's very fast-flowing corners apart from that tricky chicane in sector 2. So it's one of those tracks I think everybody loves racing at, and for some reason not many series go there anymore, and so it's one of the tracks that I haven't driven actually. So there you go. It'll be a new experience for a lot of the drivers in here, I'm sure, but I'm sure it's one they are reveling to win at least, and it's getting close in the points as well, so they need to do that.
It is 100%. Like you said, I think that second half of the lap, the really technical, twisty section, that could be a recipe for disaster with some of the multi-class racing that we've seen. Definitely hoping for some more entertainment tonight. But first and foremost, let's take a look at what's on the menu for the remainder of this season, but also what's already been consumed in Season 3. Our opening American triple header already in the rearview mirror. Road America, Laguna Seca, Indy Road Course, all delivered action and intrigue. I'm sure you'll agree. Fuji playing host tonight. And then the second half of our Japanese doubleheader is split by the first special event of the season, the Cross-Kart Carnage. Make sure you're tuned in for that one in 7 days' time. Then the technical challenge of Okayama follows before we return stateside for an American swing featuring Daytona Road, Sebring, Talladega and Miami. Long Beach hosting the second and final special event, a super special event you can see there. Before we finish where we started in the Creator Series on the iRacing side, Monza historic, although this time with the chicanes. And John, like we said a couple of times, you have certainly got some fond memories of that venue.
No commentary moments have happened during Creator Series on that one. I just remember space programs of various different brands going off at the second banked corner of Monza. So yeah, fun times. Hopefully it doesn't happen again. There's no chicane in the banking corner, so it might happen again. But if you look at the calendar, one thing that I've noticed as well is that as people get more confident, we sort of crank up the level of circuits, as in they get quicker and quicker. You know, we were at Indianapolis last round. Now Fuji, a little bit of a slowdown, but as you ramp it up, you've got Daytona, you've got Talladega, you've got loads of tracks where you have to be at the utmost confidence with the car, and indeed in terms of racing the drivers around you. So I like that kind of notion of, as the drivers crank up the level, we also crank up the difficulty in terms of speed.
100%. Going to be fascinating to see how things develop as we go through the campaign. But before we get into tonight's action, I think we should have a little bit of a chin wag with some of the competitors. And first of all, waiting in the interview waiting room, it's Des TV. And we're going to drag Des in. Hello, my friend. Hopefully you are doing well this evening. We head to Fuji tonight, of course. What are you expecting first and foremost from this track? Jumping back into the series, you've had a little bit of time to acclimatise to the Creator Series chaos.
Oh yeah, I'm excited. It's like, I actually initially messaged Punju I think earlier in the week, and I was like, hey, like this is gonna be crazy. And then like throughout like trying out the track, because every single track that we race on is like my first time ever racing on it. So I tried it out like it was yesterday, and then I literally messaged him and I was like, this is like the most flowy, like nice track ever. But the only unfortunate thing for me is like I'm in the Lambo, and for some reason there's a giant screen for the rear view mirror. And so the last turn is like it's already kind of blind, but like it's completely blind for me. So I just kind of have to like assume where I'm at, because I literally can't see anything out of my windshield in my car. So but I'm excited. I really like how it, like I said, it's flowy and it feels good. Like I'm gonna enjoy it.
Have you tried drifting through the last turn to get rid of the screen problem? That's something that I'd try. I'm not sure if it would work out, but how has the balance of the car been, other than visibility problems? Is it quite difficult to drive and get that balance between the sort of low-speed hairpins and the very fast corners like 100R?
No, once I'm driving the Lambo, and like consistently for like a little bit, it's pretty nice. But the thing is since I just started with iRacing, like whenever it was like a week or two prior to the first race, I've obviously been ranking up like throughout the levels, and so I'm still in C. I'm almost a B right now, and so I'm like driving like the lower level cars and like basically the whole week, and then I go to here and now I'm driving a GT3, and so that's like the acclimation point from going from like the Toyota GR or like the 86 and to this is completely different. So like that's where I'm at, but like once I'm in it, and like I love the Lambo. It feels great to me compared to like I've tried some other GT3s, but I like the Lambo. I love it.
What would you say is the biggest thing that you have had to learn, whether it's the car itself or the style of racing, especially in the Creator Series, where there is a lot of chaos? We have the unsafety cars, we have the multi-class mayhem going on. From that kind of view, what would you say is the biggest takeaway from your first few appearances?
So my main thing that I'm going to try in this race is not die lap 1. Every single race so far, I've died lap 1, basically, or on the first lap. And so if I can get through lap 1, then I feel like I have a good chance to stay near the front. But that's like where I'm like, okay, I am not used to, I think, the whole like 3 different series racing, and so you have like obviously the Indies going, and then I'm trying to figure out when we're going, and so I think all of it is just kind of like weird. I guess it's not like a normal race like you would have. Obviously this is not a normal race, but yeah, that's the main thing I think I need to get used to, is just not dying on lap 1, and that is my goal, and if that happens, I'll be happy.
So following on from that question, if indeed lap 1 goes okay, where do you think you'll be around in terms of pace? Is there a driver maybe in the past couple of races that you've noticed you're around their pace and that you might be fighting with?
I think, well, obviously Almeida and Paul are kind of like, I feel like they're in a league of their own, and so nowhere near them. And because as of right now, like Sparks, I think Grand Pooh Bear has some pretty good pace. Both of them I feel like are pretty much in where I could be at with them, is if we're all on the same track or on the track together and no one's crashing, which is kind of hard to say, but yeah, I think one of them I'm probably around. I feel like I have pretty good pace. Like I feel like out of all the tracks that we've raced so far, my pace is probably the best on this track so far. So also I changed my whole setup, everything like that. I guess you could go back to your other question. I realized that like my seat was like angled weird. My throttle was in a different thread, so it was like also angled weird. I like redid like my my seating position as well too, to make it more ergonomic, I guess you could say. And like, so now I no longer have back pain. My shoulders aren't hurting. Like everything is like, I feel like hopefully the comfortability is able to show as well in the pace. So that's what basically what I'm hoping for.
Amazing. Well, with fingers crossed that you can get through lap 1 unskirmished, and then you can head off and have some great duels, and hopefully this will be a very decent one for yourself. Thank you for jumping in, Des, and best of luck for this evening's action.
Appreciate it. Have a good one.
And you too. So, from someone who's been talking about how experience needs to try and build up that experience, we're going to go to one of the most experienced in the business now. Jumping back in after a little bit of time out, Hayden Gullis has joined us in the commentary booth. Hayden, welcome in. After a little bit of time out, not racing last time, have you prepared yourself for jumping straight back into the deep end?
I did actually do some laps last night because I've never driven Fuji before, and that's something I never do for Creator Series. So I thought I'll get my eye in a little bit, but then yeah, we jumped in a little bit late and I've murdered some cars. So I think that's the best part of the practice for me, is I now know many different ways to murder different classes in this.
So just for note, we are on board with you right now, so no funny business into turn 1. It's not Sand of Oak, so no heroics. What's the main difficulties with this track then, would you say, compared to other tracks?
Can I say everywhere? Whoever designed this circuit, all right, I don't know, I think their job is on the chops. Because Sector 3 especially I don't know if it's just an IndyCar thing. I've not driven it here in any other car, but there is no grip. The rear end wants to step out on you the whole time. I don't know if it's because these cars don't have a lot of downforce, but Sector 3 is just painful, which I hopefully for you lot will make for some very interesting racing.
I think we're all embedded in a little bit of chaos, and that's what we like to see. Just tagging onto the back of that, where on the circuit in particular do you think we're going to see the most carnage from an overtaking perspective? When we've got the different car classes coming through, you're going to be catching the DR86s at quite a rate of knots. Is there anywhere in particular that you're thinking, oh, we might need to be a little bit brave here?
I think turn 4? It's a very long right-hander. I mean, the whole of Sector 3 is going to be chaos because I don't think we're that much faster than the GT3, so we do have to be careful. I think we can send it up the inside, but our acceleration will not be as good. But yeah, I think that turn 4 is going to be maybe the sketchiest because I feel like we're going to be really fast, flying up to the back of those cars, and then, yeah, could get caught out.
So we've got a very long pit lane today, and I'm not referencing any other races that may or may not have happened in the past, but seeing as you won't have the opportunity to perhaps do some overtakes in an uncanny manner, is there any other way that you see that you could make up positions, or, you know, what's the strategy for this race, really?
Sorry, I just watched Scotty Designs do a perfect spin at turn 1. I think, yeah, strategy certainly is going to be key, but with any of these races, I think it's just a case of keep out of trouble. If you don't get caught up in any instance with either your own class or slow-moving classes, then you're going to have that opportunity to make up positions. So sometimes you don't always have to drive 100%. Driving at 80% through some traffic could be better than someone driving 100% and making that mistake.
And if we move on to looking at the championship picture, obviously you're leading the way, yourself and Sueli Almeida, after his very impressive victory in the GT3s last week. Does that change your approach at all? Maybe a little bit more cautious? I know that caution is you've been absolutely destroyed. I'm guessing that is by Scotty. I'd be surprised if it wasn't.
No, that was me turning it to Alex.
Oh, well, there's another one on the list. But does it change your approach at all being the championship leader, or is it still just going all guns blazing?
Not at all. I think if I start caring too much about the championship, you've got to question whether Brendan Lee's back in the car for me. So I don't think I'm going to take any sort of different attitude. They did really well last week to score some good points to take us. I think we were like second or third after the first 2 rounds, and then to put ourselves in the lead. Yeah, it's a great place to be, but there's still a lot of races left to go, and anything can happen in these races. I don't think there's any reason to put too much effort into them, because all it takes is a slow-moving car to get in your way, to hold you up in traffic, to lose you time, or causing a collision as well to make that mistake. So I think, yeah, there's no need to put too much pressure on it. Just go out there, keep having fun, keep doing what I'm doing, and enjoy it, really.
Perhaps as a last question, I might ask, has it been a lot easier the past couple of races to get used to overtaking the slower cars, or is that there's still that element now in the championship of, you know, you've got to be very careful?
I think you've still got to be careful because every circuit is different. I mean, that's an obvious thing to say, but like, I think there's going to be different parts of the circuit where some places are easy to overtake. Of course, Fuji here, this start-finish straight, so easy to overtake so many of these cars, but you get caught up in turn 4, things are going to be very, very different. So everything changes with every race, but you do certainly learn, you adapt, you figure out how to maybe be a bit more patient. I think that's probably the key in these races, and where people maybe excel when they do more multi-class races is they learn a little bit of patience. Sometimes you don't just have to send it from a mile back, because if that car is unsighted, if they don't look in their mirrors, they're going to turn across you and they're going to take you both out. It's not worth the risks. So sometimes it's waiting and thinking, well, there's another straight coming up. I can wait 1 or 2 corners. I can get the overtake there, and I'm still alive in this race.
A fine balancing act, I'm sure. And I'm also sure there'll be some slightly dicey battles and dodgy moments going on. I think both of us can agree on that. We wish you the best of luck for this evening's action, Hayden. Hopefully it's a good one. Hopefully you enjoyed as well.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
You too. Hayden Gullis there. Everybody looking to try and extend his championship lead, as he's absolutely obliterated there by none other than Scotty Designs. I thought it would be Scotty before. It is, on the second time of asking, no longer Alex Gillen jumping in. But we mentioned the championship standings, Hayden leading the way along with Sueli Almeida. This is how it looks. 5 points clear at the summit after that brilliant win for Suelio in the GT3s last time out in Indy Road. Just behind them is Resicchioso, winner of round 1 in the Indy Series, alongside Ancephalosis on 99 points. But behind them, it is really tight. Third place Hyperstar and Chestnut there on 85, just 15 ahead of Pole Noodles.sim in 6th. And Aidan Pole, for the first time 2 weeks ago, getting knocked off his perch, finishing only 3rd in the GT3 class. And even the bottom 2 as well, only 32 points adrift of the top 3. And that means, John, as we know with multi-class racing, fortunes can change in a flash. One good week and your outlook is completely transformed.
Literally, what has happened in the championship is a few teams have managed to score consistent points, maybe not even wins, across the board in multiple classes, and that means that you just get so many points on the board that you overtake people that have had one decent result. I mean, looking at Aidan Pole, for example, they sit 6th in the championship, but it's really, really tricky. For example, Ancephalosis was driving his race last time out and just was taken out. So it's very unfortunate sometimes, because you think you're doing everything to keep yourself in the championship standings, but as we know, as you referenced in multi-class racing, sometimes just the unexpected can happen. So it's going to be a mix between just keeping yourself out there on track and trying to score some big points. Notable absentee here is Ryan L83, who did really well in the championship, had a few PC issues, so that will weigh on their championship hopes as well.
100%. And he's not the only one that's had a few issues. We know that Super Noodle Bagel's been struggling with some technical difficulties as well. But before we get started, let's have a look at how the drivers will be starting and lining up on the grid. The rolling start with the Indies obviously at the front. And it is Unsafety Car 2, also known as Scotty Designs, by the way, starting on the front row alongside Zayla Plays with the Zayla Plays Grand Poubet partnership. Just behind them, following in hot pursuit, Punju, who didn't have the best of times last time out, finishing a lap down. Bit of a stinker for himself with Aerotech, who's another driver that's found himself embroiled in a few bumps and scrapes, I think it's fair to say, throughout this campaign. On row 3, just behind those two, interesting battle here. Gillen versus Gullis. It's a clash of the titans, everybody. You cannot miss Gillen with that livery. And I think we're going to have to cut short the grid rundown because, excitingly, we're almost ready to start.
Yeah, it seems like the procedure has been jumped a little bit, so we're just trying to figure out exactly what is going on. As you can see, quite a few cars still in the pit lane. So it's going to be an interesting one, because obviously every single race you have the reverse grid. So the drivers that are theoretically the fastest start at the back of their respective pack, and so into that turn 1 today with the hairpin, that's going to be tricky, isn't it?
100%. It's going to be fascinating. And that's something that in the GT3s, Aidan Pole traditionally has been excellent at, working his way through the traffic, getting up to P1 or P2 in class within the first 2 or 3 laps. We should say as well, with Suelio and Aidan Pole this week, they have got a little bit of a handicap.
Yeah, they've been added 15 kilos onto the... this is an interesting race start, Punju.
Who's this just on their own?
Taking the easiest lap one. Yeah, it is.
Lewis Hamilton 2021 at Hungary vibes here, as everybody else is in the pits. Punju seemingly has got lost, stumbled onto the grid on his own, and with green flag running. And that's a beautiful start for Punju. He can just roll down the main straight, not a care in the world, and he's got himself into the lead.
Yeah, there's a speed camera half the way down this straight, so you've got to be careful, or you'll get tickets for it. And I think everybody's just trying to figure out what exactly has happened, because as you could well imagine, that's not exactly how the race is meant to be started. You've got the green flag going, and this is looking more like an F1 testing sort of start of the race. I'm not exactly sure what's going on. Unsafety car is on track, so I think the unsafety car is going to take over for the race start for us.
I think the best way to summarise is you can see it says green flag in the top left with the yellow flag appearing. That's what describes what we're going through at the moment. As everybody piles out of the pits, you can just see the unsafety car there. Very small in stature, but incredibly big in heart, I think the best way to put it. Leading the lead Indy cars around for what will be an effective formation lap.
I think I can summarise it in one sentence. Welcome to Creator Series, everyone. It's not meant to start this way, so what I think has happened is the timing has just jumped a few minutes ahead and has caught a few drivers out. So what's going to happen is that the unsafety car is just going to do the formation lap, which was meant to do by the standard iRacing safety car. So they will all line up in their positions. That hasn't changed, and so we should get a clean race start here. It will be unsettling for the drivers though, because obviously, you know, there's a little bit of apprehension and misunderstandings perhaps, and so will the driver go slightly early? You don't know. Everything can happen in Creator Series, but it does look like everyone's got it sorted out. Just going back to my initial point then, 15 kilograms for Sweaty Almeida and Aidan Pole, just because, well, they're apparently too good and they need to be a little bit nerfed. And so looking at the times in practice, it seems to have worked a lot. And they are dropping about 7 to 8 tenths, so that should bring them in line with everyone else.
And that could be a big change, especially in the championship with Almeida leading the way alongside Gullis. Pole has been almost a one-man team at the moment with the issues that Super Noodle Bagel has had from a technical standpoint throughout this season so far. But we wait as we move into the second half of the lap to kickstart things. Everybody that is joining us, first of all, welcome. If this is your first time, make yourself comfy, everybody, because this could be absolute carnage, especially with a semi-aborted start on our hands. 3 classes on the grid. At the front, you can see the Indy cars. Then we have the GT3s. And then at the back, just for some added spice, just in case that wasn't enough, we've got GR86s coming to the party with some community entries in there as well. So we're just going to see what happens here with the unsafety car, what the formation will be as we round the final corner. You can see that incredibly long start-finish straight with Scotty Designs, by the way, leading the Indy cars around the final corner. And we wait to see. I mean, we don't know ourselves in the commentary box. It's going to be a surprise to absolutely everybody what happens as we roll sedately, I think, down the main straight as Scotty continues to sit and watch and wait in behind. And we'll see. The anticipation is building. And I think we have had the grid coming up again. So there is Punju and Josh's corner. I doubt they'll be starting side by side. It has to be honest, with them being in different car classes.
I think what's happened is it's taken the standings from the first lap, technically. Let's see.
There is your grid. This should be what you can see. And once again, it is Scotty Designs. By the way, the unsafety car too that will be starting from pole with Zayla plays alongside in the Williams liveried Indy car behind them. Punju and Aerotech both embroiled in battles in the last few weeks. Hopefully, we'll be trying to come through unscathed. Then an almighty skirmish. It's Gillen versus Gullis on row 3. Watch out for that one. There could be some afters involved between that pair. And following in just behind those two, Brendan Hyperstar winner in round 2 and Solstice. Or I've got 83 problems, but a corner ain't one, substituting in for Ryan L83. Row 5 sees the GT3 cars. Josh's corner finished a lap down last week. We'll be looking to go one better. Josh was also had a few issues in his orange and black Acura, just outside the top 10. It's Des was saying that he wants to improve on that 0% record of getting through the first lap unscathed. Needs to try and keep his wits about him with Ancephalosis for company on row 6. Then behind them, Storm Molina in the 007 Aston Martin, licensed to thrill you at hope, with Grand Poubet alongside in the BMW. And then behind them, we're moving into the big guns. Sparks, the Season 2 iRacing Creator Series champion, in the number 1 car, alongside Aidan Pole, who couldn't quite make it a hat-trick of GT3 wins to start off the season. And then we go into Greedy Me, who looks slightly out of place there in the Indy car. And alongside will be Tic Tac 1, the first of the GR86s. That is going to be a barrel of laughs, I'm sure. We'll go through them quickly. Timo, Dutch, and then we have Gosh Damn rejoining as the English driver, starting from position 20. Behind them, the Dutchman, it is L. Bird, and then Mia Rose from Australia down under, hoping to be our Australian ace. Carl McGuinness returns, almost won the first race in the GR86s. Diamgal goes from 24th. And then towards the back, we're not going to say right at the back because that feels a little bit harsh. It's Flyer X and Osoy in 25th and 26th. I think I've just seen the unsafety car disappear. So on the back row will be Clark and Ben Serter, rounding out our grid lineup.
It's a heck of a lineup, as you could say. A lot of talent in there. A lot of drivers hoping to put smiles on everyone's faces, either through a big crash or indeed a good race victory. We'll have to wait and see which one applies to each driver. But got to say that this is the stage in the season where drivers have to put their foot down and get the results as they round that ever so excruciating long final turn 16 there. On to the start finish straight. And when will Scotty Designs go? What do you think?
I think he'll try and leave this as long as possible. Doesn't want to get slipstream past. You can see the GT3 cars aren't too far away, but it is pedal to the metal as Scotty guns it coming out of the final corner. And we're coming up to cut the beam to kickstart round 4 of Season 3 in the iRacing Creator Series. Multi-class mayhem ensue, everybody, as Scotty leads them down into the heavy braking zone of Turn 1. Don't want to arrive here with cold brakes, trying it around the outside. Goes Zayla plays. Got to be careful because Aerotech and Punju will be nipping at their heels, and you can really use the track limits there on the exit of Turn 1 and 2 through Turn 2. Hayden Gullis has dropped back a little bit. You can see Alex Gillen getting stuck in, but he's already been passed by Hyperstar. Gullis down to 7th ahead of Solstice, and Green being round. I think that is Aerotech who's already dropped it, tapping the barrier, tapping the Armco, and off into the grass.
Yeah, what a great start by Aerotech, but it just didn't pan out otherwise, and that is Grand Poubert, I think, spinning.
Aidan Pohl getting tagged. That is the favourite coming in that is facing the wrong direction halfway around the first lap.
Yeah, so unfortunate. I think that was Grand Poubert caught up in that one as well. The BMW not getting out of that unscathed. So a lot of drama happening on this first lap. Zella nearly dropped it in turn 1 on the outside as well on the grass. So absolute carnage. And again, those tricky corners, those fast-flowing corners, really not helping out whatsoever.
You really need to get temperature into the brakes heading down into turn 1. Scotty Designs battling to try and hold on to places. He's off the road in his duel with Punjo over second place. Zayla already afforded the opportunity to scamper off into the distance as we round the final corner, flat out for the first time, 2 by 2 behind, because it was Hyperstar battling away with Gullis, battling away with Gillen, I should say. Gullis battling away with Solstice as Scotty Designs tucks into the draft underneath the rear wing of Punju's 13 IndyCar with nearly 2 seconds in hand. Zayla's got in front. Scotty Designs under pressure though, because Brendan Hyperstar right in the thick of this battle, and boy does he know it. Got to be careful of Gullis, and Gillen sending it down the inside. Scotty tentative under braking and rolls out the red carpet. Buffet driving, the two of them help themselves.
Yeah, I tell you what, Hayden was brave on the brakes there. Probably the latest breaker of that one. Alex Gillen and Brendan Hyperstar trying to make a move as well. Brendan just not managing to get the traction on the exit, though. Alex Gillen up the inside. That may be an overtake there. No, Alex decides to back out that one. Probably a little bit of understeer. It's so difficult when you've got the switchbacks there. Hayden on the grass, nearly swapping ends there, but thankfully... Oh, contact here. That's Ancephallosis and Joshima's. It looks like Ancephallosis just trying to go for the same bit of tarmac, and once again he finds himself spun around, and that's damage on the car. Looks like Joshima's got away with it scot-free.
Front bumper of the Merc torn off there in the contact between the Mercedes and the Acura. Joshima's counting his lucky stars there as Ancephallosis sent off into the pickets as we ride on board with Alex Gillen, the 77 car holding 4th place. A little look to the inside from Punju. They were just trying to entice Brendan Hyperstar into a little bit of a blunder into the braking zone as we come round through the final corner again. Punju differing lines, you can see there. Alex Gillen trying to tie to line. Punju sweeping in from out wide, and he actually gets a lovely exit.
Yeah, Punju knows how to drive these cars really well, and prioritising the exit is the way to go because they're quite tricky, quite snappy on throttle. And look at that, Hayden Gullis alongside Alex Gillen trying to go for a move, trying to put pressure on. He's under pressure now into turn 1. Will Hayden brake later? These two love to race each other, but just not happening. Alex Gillen taking the wide line, leaving space on the inside, but it's just so difficult to get the throttle down. It's not happening for Hayden Gullis at the moment. Meanwhile, in the GT3s, as we get a shot of Joshima's there and Aidan Pohl. Oh, Joshima's mistake, and that allows Aidan Pohl through. And the worst part about that is Joshima's is going to lose speed all the way down the start-finish straight. But look at that, Josh's corner with a 2.5 second lead at the moment to It's Dev TV.
100%. That was a little bit code brown as we're already catching the GR86. He's got to be careful here. We're on board with Aerotech, who's all over the back of Scotty Designs. And look at that, braking so early there is Scotty. Didn't fancy that one, Jot, as Aerotech says, I'll have a piece of that down the inside into turn 10 of Dunlop, and up into 8th position he goes. Josh's corner, like you said, good start. I can happily report as well that It's Dares has come through the opening salvos unscathed. There's only 2 seconds off the back of the 99 Ferrari, with the reigning champion Sparks rounding out your top 3. Not been great for either of the big guns. Aidan Pohl has recovered after that early spin and getting tagged and sent around on the first lap, back up into P5 in the Porsche. But it's not been great for Ancephallosis with that damage that he picked up a long way back with some limited aerodynamics, I should say.
Yeah, look at that gap that Mia Rose has as well into... Oh, that is Zella already overtaking the GR86s. But yeah, Mia Rose has got a great start in GR86s, but we'll have to wait and see how that gap pans out, because as you can see now, the IndyCars are coming through for the overtakes, and you've got to time it right. The approaches, as we've seen this season, are so difficult to get right. and only one little misjudgment can just send you off into the barrier and send off a pile of cars with you.
Fuji was very, very close there to dangling those down the inside of Hyperstar. Look at this. It's a car park as we head into the hairpin of turn number 6. Got to be careful. Got to have your wits about you as Gullis tries to follow Gillen through. But down the inside, diving down the inside, picking the pocket of Gullis. I think that is Solstice taking 5th place off the hands of the 66 car. And now around the outside Aerotech, there was just about enough space there for him to squeeze on through. This is Gosh Damn putting the pressure on Clark. Both of them battling for podiums in the GR86 class earlier on this season. We'll be hoping to be fighting inside the top 3 later on as we continue this battle through the second half of the lap.
Albert and Timo there just having an inter-team battle in terms of liveries. At least they are in the teams, but it's really, really tricky in this GR86 because you can get the slipstream, but it's got so little aerodynamics. The dirty air does still have a little bit of an effect, and so you can get a lot of washing on these long turns on the front tyres, and you just end up overheating them at the end of the lap, and you just can't get close enough. So slipstreaming and that braking into turn 1 can have so much of an effect. We'll have to wait and see. Will they be able to get an overtake done? It is looking like Albert is closing in at the moment, but will they go alongside? Tic Tac looks to... well, no, Tic Tac isn't defending. Albert to the inside, then it'll be last late breakers. Will they try and get the car rotated on the brakes? Can be a tricky one. They do have ABS and traction control enabled by default, and oh, Tic Tac tries to close and do the switchback, but nothing happening. Albert up into P3.
Nice move there, almost a little bit of contact as it got dicey there in the second part of the apex of turn 1. Just in front of them, the battle rages on for the lead in class in the GR86s, but we return to the Indy cars with Greedy Me and Hayden Gullis. Hayden, I think, has had a bit of a whoopsie around there somewhere, was battling away with Alex Gillen, now lost nearly 4 seconds to the 77 car, and under the cost from the 48 of Greedy Me. Still Zayla leading the way, 3 seconds clear of Hyperstar, with Punju still very much for company for the 10 car. Then you've got Gillen and Solstice rounding out your top 5. It's Des and Sparks have both managed to slash the gap in the GT3s, and Josh's corner, well, was going to be under pressure, but now the timing chart has updated, and it's Des dropping back to 3 seconds away from the 99 Ferrari.
I think just to say about Hayden Gullis, he is struggling on those softer compound tyres, as we see Aidan Pohl here just trying to attack Storm Molina. So that balance of performance definitely having an impact on both Suele Almeida and indeed on Aidan Pohl. It just looks like they can't get the car turned in, and because they've got a heavier car, they have to just take it a little bit more careful. It doesn't change the fact, though, that with talented drivers, they can find a way past. Storm Molina just not managing to get that Aston Martin turned in whatsoever, and so through goes Aidan Pohl, but he's got a sizable gap to catch now to make up any more positions.
With the pace he's got, considering on off, I think that is one of the Indy cars. Is that Aerotech again that's had a little bit of a problem? No, it's Scotty who's had a few adventures out there a number of times already. Remember, started from pole, now right at the back of the IndyCar scene. We'll see what's going on here. Passing the Lamborghini of It's Des into the braking down into turn 10 of Dunlop. Did he get it wrong? Just a little bit too hooked over the curb. Now taking a trip through the grass, which is almost like sheet ice if you're not careful, and just make his way through the runoff area.
Yeah, very unfortunate. Just trying to make up for... I think this is Greedy Me, yeah, attacking Hayden Gullis. You can see the difference of the tyres. You can see Hayden just trying to turn, but it's understeering and oversteering, sort of four-wheel drift, and that means Hayden going to defensive, but he just can't get any traction. Up the inside goes Greedy Me, a little bit too greedy, though. He'll have to get the slipstream to get this overtake done, but it's looking like around this track, with so many very fast and flowing corners, like 100R, you have to go for the harder compound, as Greedy Me is up the inside, looking to make that overtake even before turn 1.
Should be fairly regulatory, and is, although you mentioned the alternate tyres there, Punju's still doing a very good job on the red walled rubber, still clinging onto the coattails of Hyperstar in the battle for second and third. So clearly it's Gullis really struggling with the overheating of those tyres, in particular Aerotech only 2.5 seconds behind them. Then you've got Scotty Designs, by the way, a minute off the back of the number 3 Aerotech in position number 8. It's Des is dropping through the field like a stone, though. I wonder if the Lamborghini has fallen foul of maybe a little bit of contact from second down into 5th. Can't see him in the background. Is, yes, a long way back. So I wonder if we'll get a replay of that in not too long to see what happened to Des. He survived the opening lap, but as we reach quarter distance, he has come a cropper, battling here with Sparks, the reigning champion, over second and third. Does he dive it to the inside? Yes. Is there going to be the space left? Well, Sparks very kind there, but on the inside just gets a little little bit too lively with the loud pedal and loops that car around.
It's again that difficulty in traction in the GT3s. You have confidence, you nail the throttle, and then at some point the traction control just goes, no, I can't deal with this anymore. You're going to have to take manual control, and by that time it's already too late. As we referenced, Punju still attacking on those option tyres with, I think that's Alex Gillen behind the livery, just having a little bit of a flaky action on the screen there. As we have Greedy Meat once again up the inside of Hayden Gullis. They're still battling, and they've got the GT3s to contend with. That is Storm Molina on the outside. Hopefully no contact. Hayden just sort of crouching them on the insides there, but Greedy Meat just wise to that and still getting to the apex. And the problem is for Hayden, the longer he sits behind Greedy Meat, the more the overheating, especially of the front tyres, will take effect. As now they've got the GR86s to contend with as well.
They've got to hang it around the outside, and that's going to take even more out of the front tyres in particular. So at the moment, Gullis writing checks that his tyres very much can't cash, although he is close to the back of Greedy. He gets a little bit bogged behind one of the GR86s into turn 6, now having to duck and weave through them. Gullis senses maybe an opportunity to try around the outside, but weaving through they go. Look at that, left, right, trying to find the space. Sparks in there in the GT3 as well. Gullis coming with some gusto into turn 10. It's actually Greedy who gets up the inside of Sparks, and Hayden going to have to go the long way round to dispose of the Audi GT3 car. For the time being, Greedy will put some distance between himself and the 86 of Gullis. Further forward, this is Alex Gillen perusing up to the back of Punju, and you get the feeling that these places could trade in not too long time.
Yeah, Zella, meanwhile, is pulling away in the distance. You can see them just up the road there. And Punju has to go defensive here. He's put up a brilliant defense. And you can see the deployment there. Alex Gillen using the push to pass, where the arrows just go to the right on the screen. That means they have more power available, and they are deploying it to get the overtake done. And Alex up the inside. You'd think he'd get the overtake done. Punju with a little bit of a switchback. Just can't get the traction, though, on the exit. They have 200 seconds of push to pass to use in this race, and they have to use it selectively because they will run out on this very long straight. Look how Punju is basically pushing Alex around the corner. I have the distinct impression that the option tyres are good on the first part of the lap, but then they start overheating in sector 3.
Yeah, still punchy there, Punju, putting Gillen under the cosh, but this is where you would imagine on the primary compound that Gillen can just start to stretch his legs and pull clear. Just over 6 seconds away from the leader in class, Zayla, who's doing a really solid job. Consistent lap times out in front, still solidly lapping faster than Brendan Hypestar to the tune of half a second on the previous lap. Still Punju sternly examining the rear geometry of Alex Gillen's 77 car. Hasn't managed to extend the gap as maybe we were expecting. Josh's corner still leading the way for the GT3s ahead of Sparks, but Aidan Pole just cruising up to the back of the leading duo. Now just 3 seconds away from Josh's corner, and after being deposed as the winner for the first time, knocked off his perch for the first time this season at Indy Road, I think Aidan Pole is coming here with a bit of vengeance.
Yeah, it's an interesting sort of narrative, isn't it? That you have to sort of bounce back from bad sessions. It will happen in the championship. You will have a bad race, but it's all about what you do after that, how you reset the mindset, how you go again. And I think it does help in the Creator Series that the drivers take it as a bit of fun as well, so they don't have that pressure of sort of going for it 100%. And I think that really means that every driver has a capacity to bounce back. Aidan Pole, you can see the triple screen set up there. That is incredibly beautiful. And I must admit, having tried one myself, you just feel as if you're in a race car, and you always get afraid of just sending it too hard because you don't want to hit the barriers. And then you remember, hang on a minute, it's a simulator, I can still do that. Hasn't been the race so far for Aidan Pole in P3, so not doing too bad, but the gaps in GT3 have been a bit bigger than I expected. And I'm wondering whether it's a play in aerodynamics or just having to back out of it because the Indy cars are sending ludicrous moves while trying to overtake.
Well, if you consider the fact that he was pointing in the wrong direction halfway around lap 1 to get into this position where you can see the 2 leaders in class just ahead, I think he has done a pretty damn decent job. A second quicker than Corner on the previous lap, half a second faster than Sparks as well. So taking chunks of time out of the leaders despite having that 15-kilogram bop added to his car, the equivalent of one adult beaver, don't you know, as the Porsche rise through the sweeps of the middle sector, jumping down into turn 10 we go. This is where he's been strong. I've seen Aidan Pole really confident under braking in that Porsche. You can see their Sparks not really troubling the apex of 10, and also through 11 and 12. That is going to put Pole right underneath his rear wing.
Indeed it will, and I tell you what, Aidan Poll's just demonstrating how you can go fast at this track, just keeping it extra smooth. You might notice Josh's corner and Sparks just sort of oversteering the car at certain moments and having to correct oversteer, but you can see Aidan Poll, possibly it being also the Porsche, might be a better sort of combination to get that rotation without the excessive oversteer. And you can see he's close this time, is about half a second by my calculation. The timing says 4/10. This could be an overtaking opportunity. Sparks weaving on the start-finish straight just to make sure to deny him the opportunity for at least one more lap. But this GT3 battle at the front is closing up with every person within a second now in this top 3.
Really working hard there to break the turn. For the time being, the R8 does have it covered down into turn 1 as Poll carrying a lot of speed there, slightly wide through turn 1 as he tries to put his foot to the floor to get as close as he possibly can to Sparks in front on the run up into Coca-Cola turn 3. And this is where it is going to be difficult to follow with the dirty air coming off the cars in front. But if he can stick like glue to the back of the reigning champion, he might have an opportunity down into the braking zone of turn 6. But they're both catching up to Josh's corner as well, darting to the inside. Does he show the nose? Yes. Sparks leaves in the space. Generosity acquired there from the Audi. But look at that, Josh's corner really slow on the exit of 6 as well. He might be handing a couple of places over here for not much beneficiary, because this is the reigning champion. To the inside is Josh's corner, going to be defenseless. Flames coming out of the back of the Ferraris. To the inside goes Sparks into Dunlop turn 10. Should have that move one and done. Aidan Poll a little bit bulked behind them, but it is now the R8 of the reigning champion. Sparks jumped into the leading class.
Yeah, I tell you what, Aidan Poll. Oh, just a tap there, and around goes Sparks. Corrected. I think everybody's still in. No, they aren't. Sparks is round. Just tapped twice there. The first one recovering that spin, but the second one spinning them all the way around. Let's see if we can get a replay of this. So Aidan Poll just the inside. The confidence on the brakes. Just a tap is carrying the overspeed. The one tap resets them. The second tap spins them all the way around once again. What such an unfortunate event. Sparks had nothing really to do with that. Aidan Poll just an excessive amount of confidence in there and just not accounting for the other drivers maybe not having the apex speed. That still puts them in P3, but they are now 7 seconds adrift, and that puts Josh's corner back into first place with a bit of an ego tap there for Aidan Poll.
100%, yeah. Bit of a clumsy move there. Unlike Aidan Poll, there's more contact. This time it's a clumsy move from Josh's corner into turn 1. Slams into one of the GR86s who goes spinning off into the pickets, and suddenly Poll straight back underneath the rear wing of the Ferrari. Was in the Corvette to start the season. Now commandeering the Porsche and down the inside into 3. That is Aidan Poll into the leading class for the first time officially this season. He got it for about half a second as he was battling away with Sparks, but then made contact with the Audi, and now he lets the Ferrari in front make contact with one of the Toyotas.
Yeah, very unfortunate, just late braking, to be honest. I think Josh's corner was under pressure there. I'm not exactly which GR86 that was, but yeah, it's just a sense of trying to defend the position. And we've seen in that last lap that Aidan Poll is so late on the brakes. So I think Josh's corner has just lost confidence and has allowed Aidan Poll to go through, just trying to reset the performance there a little bit. They'll follow in the line of Aidan Poll, trying to get a sense of where to go. On that previous lap as well, they went off track, and that created the whole concertina effect, where Sparks was able to close in and then Aidan Poll as well, and that led to the further complications. So it just emphasizes how difficult it is to drive around this track, and yeah, just that the GT3s apparently today have devil's horns growing out of them.
100%, yeah. He came from a long, long way back, didn't he, Josh's corner? So, like I said, maybe just a little bit concerned, driving in his mirrors, thinking about what Aidan Poll was going to be doing. This is Carl McGuinness battling away with Mia Rose and Elbird, first, second, third in the GR86 class. McGuinness slightly wide there, gives the opportunity for Rose to show it to the inside. It's going to become the outside for turn 7, and McGuinness should have the high road for the time being. Going to be in the defensive mode again, though, on the run down into turn 10. Got to watch for the 304 of Elbird behind. Rose doesn't fancy it. Down the inside into Dunlop. Neither does Elbird, trying to pick the pocket of 1 or 2 potentially of the cars in front. And for the time being, McGuinness will hold on to this. But if you remember, back to Road America, the season opener was challenging for the victory in the GR86 class, and then things unravelled very, very quickly. There it is off the road. Is that the commentator's curse? No, he manages to catch the slide. Armful of opposite lock, perhaps, as he rides the bumps in the GR86 pretty nice indeed, but still absolutely all over the place.
I think that's the one moment where you can be thankful for the traction control. Right there's Carl McGuinness, very, very wide in that exit phase of the corner. And written on that rear wing, please don't hit me, I have a race to do. So It's an interesting one to put on the back of a GR86 with such fast cars. I'm not sure the IndyCar will have the time to read that, especially if they're going into the back of them. But I think we're about to see what is happening in this GR86 class. I was suspicious of it. Bump drafting. If you look at the times, Clark in P4 is 4 seconds behind because the top three are bump drafting. And if you see behind Clark, Ben Serda is in P5, 1/10 behind. So nobody going for an overtake into turn 1. But it looks like Carl McGuinness is actually wide. Will Amiros get up the inside? No, not quite. But that means that if you're not in the pack, if you're not in the front three, you can't close in. You're gaining about 4/10 of a second doing that on the straight. And so it just becomes an impossible task. They have to work together. Clark and Ben Serda too have to work together at least.
100%. Doing the bump drafting nicely for Carl McGuinness. A kiss for a rose, perhaps, as the 301 goes into the back of the 311, and the 304 does the same as they try to, like you say, keep the guys behind at arm's length. As diving into pit road we go. Got to be committed into the pit lane because you don't want to give up time. Alex Gillen is in. Zayla, Brendan Hyperstar, Punji. This is the lap. The button being pressed. Everybody diving in for a brand new set of boots and some fuel.
Yeah, indeed. A little bit earlier than I would have expected. I guess people just not being able to make the fuel last with the long pit straight. That means that, in theory, at least, we'll see maybe 2 pit stops. I think everybody was trying to hang it out until an unsafety car. It hasn't happened since the start of the race, although technically we have had an unsafety car. But that one will be questionable. Brendan Hyperstar are going past, but I think they're taking less fuel on board as far as I can see. A 9-second pit stop, a 20 and counting set. I think that's maybe glitched there. But I did see like a 17-second pit stop.
Wow. That is a long one there for Scotty Designs, who I have to say has actually been in the pits for quite a while. But that's unsafety car 1, Micah Mixer. We've seen Scotty in the pits for a while. Zayla still in the pits also. But we see now coming out. This is, that is Punju, is it? Yes, just ahead of Gillen. And Zayla still in the pits.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what's happened. Damage, I didn't notice any collisions. I didn't notice any debris on the roads as they go around the outside, which becomes the inside of Ancephalosis, who's staying out of the way since the contact last week. He's just leaving a very wide gap. There's the GR86 that got into the, was the victim of Josh's corner, let's say. And yeah, it's going to turn into one of those races where strategy is paramount. Hayden Gullis in the pits as well. So it looks like the fuel just won't go the distance. Zealous still in the pits. I'm not exactly sure what's going on here, but they have definitely lost the race lead.
Approaching 90 seconds. You want maybe if she's crashed into the back of the unsafety car. This is unfortunate there for the leader in class that was comfortable out in front. Bulletproof, you could say, was keeping Brendan Hyperstar at arm's length. The gap was hovering 3 to 4 seconds, but now that's over 90 seconds lost in pit road. Eventually Zayla gets going, but that, you would imagine, is race run.
Yeah, it's interesting as well. It seems like a lot of people are going for a 2-stop. So this has nothing to do, obviously, with Zella, Zella's issues, but they're out. As far as I can see, they're back out on the track. But that's a solid minute lost, and that is very unfortunate. That drops them pretty much to the back of the pack. I can only anticipate there might have been some damage due to running over a curb, or just something going on with the suspension of the car, which takes a very long repair time. That's sort of the estimate that I'd have for a fast repair of something very serious. Maybe even a downshift too far and possibly doing some damage to the engine, although that's a little bit of a stretch. If you do damage to the engine, that's quite a hefty repair afterwards. But yeah, very, very puzzling one. We'll have to maybe ask them if we can at some point.
Yeah, you feel like you'd notice as well if you blow the gearbox up on the downshifts. Maybe some signs, some smoke explosions, but they are now down in position 8. There's Scotty Designs through the final corner. Wide goes Sparks as he renews his spoils with Aidan Pole. They've already had a few tete-a-tetes so far, with Pole just tapping the back of Sparks and sending that Audi R8 spinning around and dropping out of the lead in class. They're going to renew it now, eyeball to eyeball down the straight, but look at this, getting boxed in is the Audi. Clever racing there from Pole as he gets the position done. Smart racing IQ. Sparks with nowhere to go, boxed in on the left-hand side, and the Porsche comes through. I have to say as well, everybody watching in chat, hopefully you've enjoyed almost the first 50% we've had so far. Just going back to the Josh's Corner incident, Bistro, I've just seen in the chat, that wasn't Josh's Corner, but that is a 10 out of 10 for that little pun. I'm a big fan.
Gotta love that one. I'll give that a 10 out of 10 as well. Wish I would have thought of that one myself. I just want to comment as well. Josh's Corner back up to the lead. Now, last time I checked, Aidan Pole was leading. We haven't seen any incidents, but yeah, have we seen a spin at some point or some shenanigans going on? It's not enough time for a pit stop, But somehow Aiden Pohl is in second place, not in first place. And that gap of 7 seconds indicates that something has gone wrong at some point. But I don't see any damage on the car, so it's quite puzzling, is it? Oh, hang on a minute. There's some GR86s that might have something to say in it. Maybe they've given the position back to Sparks from that previous incident, as that, I think that is Elbird battling with Kyle McGuinness. Wow,
That's
Sparks up the
That is
inside.
beautiful.
Wow.
Wow, that was opportunistic if I've ever seen it. Maybe just driving with a bit of rage here. He's already been taken out once by Aiden Pohl. Now he's been boxed in by Aiden Pohl going down the straight. So Sparks just maybe driving with a little bit of rage and aggression there, trying to dovetail and chase back up to the runaway Porsche in front. As there goes the leader in the Indy class, Brendan Hyperstar. Since Zayla was taken out of the equation, he has been very, very comfortable out front. You can see in the background there is Alex Gillen holding second place, almost equidistant. First back to second, back to third, 3.6 seconds to 4.2, with Solstice occupying that final spot inside the top 3. But Sparks and Aiden Pohl, they are equidistant, 6 seconds away from Josh's corner, 6 seconds away from the 007. You can see there the Aston Martin of Storm Molina, who's just got to be careful because I think that was Punji around the outside. The GR86 battle continues to rage on, still going at it. It's now Elbird in the leading class, ahead of McGillis and Rose, with Clark still a decent whack behind them as well. Need to try and work one over on the leading trio, you would say.
Yeah, if you look at the pace difference, it's quite literally the bump drafting that is having that effect. You can't really do anything if the 3 cars in front of you are essentially just working with each other. But yeah, at some point you just have to accept it and move on with it. I mean, so many things can happen. We're barely at half distance at this stage, so everything can still happen. I'm still puzzled about what happened to Zella, because they're back up to race pace as well and setting very decent lap time. So whatever happened, it hasn't had a lasting sort of damage or irreparable damage. So as I thought Punja was going to go straight into the back of Sparks then, but they managed to get it stopped around the outside, nearly collecting Sparks once again. Sparks has got to be thinking, what do I have to do to keep people away from me?
Can't catch a break at this stage in the Audi R8. It's going to be Punju lining up Aiden Pohl there. Saw a gap to the inside of the final corner. Remember what we were saying? I think it was Hayden pre-race where he was saying the drive that you get out of the corners, the acceleration of the IndyCars isn't actually that great. As Beta Jew, we're going to say to Sparks, is going to dive into pit road for the first time. First of the GT3 leading contenders to make what you would imagine will be their one and only pit stop in this race.
It's interesting that the fuel has gone far enough for them, but not for the IndyCars. That IndyCar tank is quite a small fuel tank. And so we saw in the pit stops, some people taking 9-second pit stops, other people taking 19-second pit stops. So I think some drivers like Brendan Hyperstar, who's in the lead of the IndyCar, are trying to go for an unsafety car. Well, speak of the devil. Commentator's curse perhaps, but unsafety car deployed. So anybody that has taken a lower race fuel can now pit and get the advantage of it.
Yes, well, I mean, did you call that? Did you press the button, John? Because that was absolutely perfectly timed from yourself there. There is our little, look at how cute he is, the 995 of the unsafety car, just cruising around, perusing around, looking to catch the Indy cars first and foremost. And then we can see what happens. Whether something caused that unsafety car, as yet, we are still none the wise. But we wait to see if we have seen a cataclysmic collision somewhere out on the circuit, which has meant that our little unsafety car has made his way out onto the circuit.
Problem is, the unsafety car looks like a very interesting target for a few cars. So I'm hoping, just going to point out for the drivers out on track, the unsafety car is not a moving target, although it is very tempting, as the unsafety car is looking to pick up the leader. Still a few cars to go. They're just waiting, or lying in wait, as they should say, as everybody carries on at a mild pace around the lap. There's no sort of maximum time or minimum time that you have to do. So they will just continue cruising around and maybe even make a pit stop straight away. Although you'd have to say for the IndyCars, it's too early for those that picked up fuel. So we'll have to wait and see. As I think that's Greedy Me in the pits. We have Aiden Pohl and Josh's corner in the pits as well. Who will get the better pit stop? We've seen it in the past. Somebody miss their pit box and lose 4 positions. Let's see if that happens.
Race for the pit crews and the race to slam your anchors on. I think the point you make about the IndyCar strategy as well is going to be a fascinating one, as we see Sparks working his way through. They managed on average, 17 laps the Indy cars got out of that opening stint on the fuel. Now, we're going to have a little bit less than that, maybe 15 laps to the end with all of them coming in now. That should be fine, but you might be a little bit miles. Remember back to the season opener at Road America, we had 4 or 5 cars caught short by a late unsafety car. They had to pit within the final 3 laps, and that was what handed victory to Reska Kyozo, who managed to manage the fuel very, very efficiently.
We've seen multiple times at, for example, Laguna Seca, or indeed last time out at Indianapolis, some drivers who are at the back of the pack, or of their respective pack, let's say, pit every single lap under the unsafety car to take an additional 1 lap's fuel to make sure that they don't have to do any lift and coast or anything like that. So it can be an interesting strategy, especially as you said, we are on the marginal stage of fuel at the moment with only maybe a lap's worth of spare if you fill up right to the brim. So I think we'll see cars going into the pits as late as possible, as Punju in the pits there. And yeah, it's going to be a puzzling one, because do you want track position or do you want to pit for fuel? Looks like Brendan, the Hyperstar, and Solstice have said we want track position.
And that's not too surprising. Very, very wide circuit. A lot of opportunities, plentiful opportunities to make an overtake stick. Obviously, the big one, this long start-finish straight where you can time your braking down into turn 1. Absolutely to perfection. We have to apologise to Bishop GP in the Twitch chat that Lewis McGlade once cursed you and you haven't raced since. Sorry, my friend, if we've brought up any flashbacks from our commentator's curse.
No, it never happens around here. Commentator's curse is just a myth. I just want to point out as well the unsafety car wobble there. Not sure if you saw it into turn 1, but that car may be a little bit unstable. I'm not sure if it's meant to be driven around such fast tracks as Fuji. I'm not even sure if they're in top gear at the moment, but yeah, it's certainly a tricky car to drive. And I think the biggest problem that people have the moment behind the unsafety cars, tire temperatures. Now the Indy cars are going quite slow, and you can imagine that the Legends car is going flat out in some of these corners. You know, at the restart, especially with that difficult turn 16, will we see somebody spin it and bin it?
I think we have to extend that to turn 1 as well, because we saw it on the race start at the beginning of lap 1 or lap 2 as it was. You need to be careful with how cold your brakes are. Heavy braking zone down into turn 1, arriving at high speed. If you get that wrong, especially if you're in the mid-pack, you are going to be playing skittles there down into turn 1. As we see here, this is earlier on in the race. This is the very start. As wide, that is Aerotech. That was the bump over the curb that sent him not actually into the arm car on the right-hand side. I think he just managed to avoid the wall, but he does have a lot of grass, a lot of dirt now scattered and littered around his car.
Yeah, this was Aidan Paul, I think, collision with Grand Poubert, if I'm correct. Looks like the collision actually initially happened with Ancephalosis, and then it was Sparks trying to avoid it on the anchors that's taken out Aidan Paul. So you could say that the collision later on with Sparks was a little bit of karma there. So you see Ancephalosis on the inside. Yeah, there was a tap. The BMW definitely gets tapped on the curb as well, and then just applying the throttle too early, and then just spinning off into the grass and collecting the Armco barrier that Aerotech managed to avoid. This is later on as well, the spin from Joshima's collecting Ancephalosis and then spinning them round for good measure. That's yeah, not ideal. I think a few words may be said about that. And as we've got the interesting Ferrari rear wing there deployed by Ancephalosis there on the front of the Mercedes.
The hooping Ferrari rear wing, if you've been watching testing at all today. Yeah, Ancephalosis, complete innocent bystander there, and an unfortunate one, I think it is fair to say. As we rejoin the action, trundling down the start-finish straight. Hello, everybody. We're back on your screens. Brendan Hyperstar, you mentioned drivers will be wanting to try and take a pit stop again under the safety car, willing to give up some track position. Brendan Hyperstar has lost a load of places. He's going to come back through, but Aerotech is now into the pits again.
Yeah, so I think Aerotech is doing the strategy of taking on that additional lap or two of fuel. It makes sense, and especially if they've got some damage to repair, they just wait to see where they are in the pecking order after everyone's made their pit stop. And it's there, well, second to last as it seems, as it looks like Scotty Design sadly is out of the race. We missed that earlier. But yeah, it just makes sense to be able to push the braking zones a little bit further, doesn't it? And for Aerotech, what an unfortunate series of events. They've just been in contact with literally and or metaphorically with the front of the pack at multiple stages of this race, and every single time they've got back up to the front, something else has happened.
I mean, series of unfortunate events is probably the perfect way to put it. Surprised Zayla didn't go for the same strategy, to be honest, with the pace that we know the 14 car has got, just trying to have as much of an advantage as possible. The caveat is that I think these cars can probably get to the end of the race at this point. This is Stormalina, the 007 in the GT3 class, is currently holding position number 4. We'll be hoping to try and keep Ancephalosis, Grand Poobah et al. Behind at bay and maybe challenge the leading trio. Remember back to the season opener, Stormalina was very much in the fight to finish inside the top 3, but dropped it dramatically with just a couple of laps to go. Threw that away, handed it on a plate to Sparks, who came home in 3rd. So we'll be looking to try and recover and get back inside the top 3 for the Aston Martin car. But I don't think we're too far away from getting back under green flag running.
Yeah, just before we do, just looking at some of the lap times here. Everybody in the IndyCar is basically doing 126s, low 126s. And Aerotech actually setting the 2nd fastest lap of the race so far. But Zella has another 2/10 with a 125.8. Well, just amazing lap time there, just demonstrating that they have the pace. Meanwhile, in the GT3 category, Aidan Pohl has still about 0.3 of a second per lap, but that gap has shrunk from that 1 second that we have, and it means that they're under pressure for sure this race. So the balance of performance definitely working out. As we see, they're going through turn 13, approaching turn 14. Now is that Legends car, and they will be doing somewhat of a good job, I think, of getting out of the way. We have yet to see exactly what's going to happen. If anybody knows, the unsafety car is not very safe on approach to the pit lane and all over the curbs and on the grass, as I say that.
Looks like he's got suspension made of bubbles there as he jumps across the curbs. Going to lose all of the fillings in your teeth as he disappears off into the distance, maybe to slam it into the pit wall. And that car, well, it'll be almost like the bonnet's coming out of the boot by the time it slams into the wall. You can see Brendan Hyperstar behind getting ready to punch it out of the final corner. Are we going to see the contact into the wall? I mean, there's such a long build-up here. We're going to be racing by the time they slam it into the wall. What an anticlimax is it? I think there's a bit of contact. Once, twice, pinballing over the Armco. As we return back to the action, Brendan Hyperstar looking to put his foot flat to the floor and charge down into the braking zone of turn 1 to get us back underway with Solstice in hot pursuit. Punji 3rd ahead of Gillen and Greedy Me, who are actually side by side. Gillen may be caught short by the restart. Same with Hyperstar, is under the cosh down the inside. Goes Solstice into turn 1. Can Hyperstar keep it planted through 2 around the outside? The answer is yes, and the 10 car does keep hold of the lead in class. Solstice still there on the outside. It'll be a brave drive to try it around the outside of 3, and Solstice eventually backing out of that one. Alex Gillen keeping Greedy Me at bay also for the time being, with Josh's corner leading the GT3s from Sparks, Aidan Pohl, Stormalina and Ancephalosis, with Des under pressure there from the beam of Grand Poobah.
Meanwhile, in the GR86s, I think that is Elbert defending from DM Gal. DM Gal up the inside, but will it stick? You can see the lack of aerodynamics having their effect as Elbert all the way across the curbs. These GR86s are just something else, is up the inside. Too wide already, as, yeah, it just never ceases to amaze the action here. A lot of drivers here, I think, in the GR86s out of sort of their position before the unsafety car, as well, people are getting crowded over the curb, nearly spun round.
Big old squeeze, big old fishtail as well. Hyperstar still leading the Indy cars from Solstice. Punja further second back. Greedy Me has disposed of Alex Gillen on this opening lap, back under green flag running, and Gillen and Gunnis can now get reacquainted in the battle for 5th and 6th, the places they started, of course, on lap number 1. Tucking into the draft, we go with Solstice. How close can we get on the run down into turn 1? Tried it down the inside on the previous lap. Do we think about it again? No, just a little bit too far back, as Alex Gillen potentially sensing danger with Hayden Gullis in hot pursuit, having to throw the defensive shape as well. And this is Aidan Pohl. Round 3 this will be. Round 4 actually, between Sparks and Aidan Pohl. Round 1 went to Sparks. 2 and 3 the favour of the 12 car. The victor in round 1. The victor in round 2. Just eking up to the back of the R8. Defensive move from Sparks as he moves over to the middle of the track. Aidan Pohl will have to go the long way round. Tries it under braking. Can we get a decent run with a cutback? Not quite yet, as both run a little bit wide through 1. And we were as we were with Josh's Cornet leading this duo.
I'm not sure if you noticed on the inputs that you could see from that shot of Aidan Paul, just completely rotating the car on the brakes, barely having to steer onto the apex, and then just a little bit of twitch of oversteer, straight back on the throttle. That's how you maximize a GT3 car. Oh, meanwhile, in the GR86s, that's 2 cars off of the track and into the barrier, sadly. I'm not exactly sure. Was that Clark caught up in that one?
Oh,
it's
look
a 4
at this.
wide.
It's 4 wide, and then 3 wide behind. Surely it ends badly and does. Spun into the path of the one on the right goes Diamgal. I think that's Clark caught up in that. The car that was pincered into the wall. Diamgal then hitting the tyre wall at subsequently less velocity as the Armco and the driver on the left-hand side. We can see there just the pinch moving over, trying to get over to the left-hand side, and bang.
I think that was Carl McGuinness pinching on the inside, sadly. I mean, they wanted to get to the outside of the corner to be able to turn in, but I don't think they even realised that they were 4 wide, so they thought they had a little bit of room they could put pressure on, but it has not happened at the moment. Solstice really putting pressure on Brendan Hyperstar, and that is a little bit of is there a tyre difference? There is indeed a tyre difference. So again, those option tyres not really working out well around this, especially sector 3 of the track. So Brendan Hyperstar might be under a little bit of pressure in the closing stages of this race. Solstice really has the hammer down at the moment. A 25.8 on that last lap. 25.7 by Brendan Hyperstar. Incredible pace.
Yeah, Hyperstar does look a little bit ragged. Was slightly wide through turn 3. You can really see how stiff these cars are, how badly they react over the curves, bumping and grinding over the curves on the outside of the corners as Solstice continues to try and apply the blowtorch. Stay as close as they possibly can to the 10 car of Hyperstar, with Punji a further second back down the road. Zayla, quickest in the early phases, led the opening salvos. We're passing the GR86s for the first time, getting embroiled and intertwined with Hayden Gullis in the final few corners, as this is Aidan Pole. Round 4 between himself and Sparks. He's going to have to go the long way round because the R8 has the inside line on the run down into turn 10. This was where Sparks got past Josh's corner in the second little bit of contact we saw between the 1 car and the 12. Sparks throwing the defensive shape inside to outside. Aidan Pole looking for the smallest of gaps so he can fit the 12 Porsche car. After the outside of 13, Sparks keeping it pinned nicely to the apex and keeps the championship leader in the GT3 class at least at bay for the time being.
Oh, Josh's corner around just a little bit too much on the brakes. I think they might have collected someone there. That is very, very unfortunate. Did they collect Aidan Pole? So Josh's corner just going very late on the brakes. I think just a little bit conscientious that Sparks might be able to chuck one up the inside. You can see the rear has already let loose. And no, they haven't collected anybody, but they've tried to get on throttle and they've dumped it on the grass, which doesn't have a great effect. So that's back down to P5. Incredible seeing Stormalina Grand Prix getting bite. That is Aidan Pole trying to get past.
Big old squeeze applied. Sparks over to the pit wall. Pole switching back over to the right-hand side, the left-hand side of the circuit. Right as we look at it, tries to find the cutback. Gets the drive out of turn 1, flat through 2. Sparks, can he keep his foot in there on the run down into 3? He will have the inside line, but it'll be Pole on the outside with the high road. Who's the last of the late breakers? Pole's the last of the late breakers. Charges round the outside and gets back up into the leading class.
Yeah, couldn't really do much with the Audi in that one. The Audi known for a little bit more understeer than the Porsche, and so Porsche just went round the outside. Aidan Pole knowing that Sparks would have to back out that one. That's Joshima's off the track, perhaps just losing it by himself. We'll have to wait and see. Ancephalosis going possibly for an overtake here. No, Joshima's carried way too much speed. The car let loose even on the curb in the entry to the corner on that one. That's turn 3. That is Zella off the road as well, I think, in turn 1. So a late braking maneuver. Let's have a look what happened here. Trying to go on the oh wow, that's a huge avoidance right there. Very well done, but that was at least 10 meters too late on the brakes.
I think Zayla will have some damage there. You can see cosmetically at least the front wing of that Indy car was just dislodged ever so slightly, and also tapped the Armco on the left-hand side, and that's a little bit of a clumsy error there from Zayla, who is really, really quick, getting embroiled with Gullis and with Gillen in the battle for 5th and 6th, and Greedy Me and Punju not too far up the road either, but this two out in front, the duo out in front of Hyperstar and Solstice, have checked out. And as things stand, it is going to be an exclusive battle between this duo for the victory in the IndyCar class. Brendan Hyperstar himself and Chesnor Gaming, who is absent this week, they're 3rd in the team's championship. This will be a nice step forward if it stays as is. As look at this, Alex Gillen all over the back of Greedy Me. Been a little bit quiet in the last few laps as Gillen, but maybe just coming on song and coming on strong in the back end of this race.
Yeah, I think he's gaining confidence. You can see it. He's taking the right lines to attack now around that last turn. Greedy Me under a huge amount of pressure. This is the battle for the podium. You've got Punju ahead of them. They're all deploying their push to pass as well. They know this means a lot. Track position. Alex Gillen late on the brakes. Greedy Me turns in, not willing to give the corner totally, but over the curb they're just lacking a little bit of traction. Will they be able to go to the inside? They deploy their push to pass a little bit earlier, but no, Alex Gillen shuts the door, slams it shut even, and that is them up into P4, waiting to challenge Punju, who's had it all his own way for the moment in P3.
And you can see that Greedy Me got a little bit loosey-goosey there over the curb and over the... Oh, as we're nearly going to lose it again. Back of that car looks very unstable, maybe overheating the rear tyres. Fortunate that Hayden Gullis wasn't close enough to try and punish that mistake. The two mistakes actually from Greedy Me. The first one out of turn 1 where he lit up the rear tyres. Again coming out of turn 6. He's on the primary compound. Hayden Gullis the same. It's the red rubber for Punju in third. Maybe that's why he's struggling. He also bulked behind. I think that was Joshima's in the Acra now on the inside into 13. Alex Gillen back under pressure from Greedy Me, who's found himself on all the wrong parts of the racetrack as Gillen. But I think he will just hold on to fourth ahead of the 48 at Greedy Me. Then Gullis with Punju still at the head of this snake for the time being, although clearly struggling with his tyres.
Yeah, I think a lot of drivers struggling around this track in the IndyCar. You can see them bounce sort of in multiple of the corners. 100R, for example, where we saw them just absolutely on the limits through the corner totally. I think it has to do with the track, really. Japan is known as a seismic area, so a lot of volcanic activity, and it does create ripples in the tarmac on various tracks. As Alex having to go defensive there. Greedy Me just positioning the car in the right place to have a run. Punju not getting a great exit as well. So will Alex Gillen be forced to go for it? No, not quite. You've got, I think that's Ancephalosis as well on track. Alongside, Punju is boxed in behind Ancephalosis, and Alex Gillen gets round. What an unfortunate series of events for Punju. Greedy Me is so quick around this part of the track, up the inside, but they can't just make it sick. Hayden Gullis might go all the way around the outside. Not quite, but the battle continues.
Yeah, this is really tight. Punju on all the wrong parts of the road there, and Alex Gillen was very smart in where he was placing his car. Under pressure again is Punju because it's Greedy Me to the inside of turn 10. There's more traffic they're going to have to deal with in the second half of that. Hayden Gullis waiting to pick up the pieces of any skirmishes that go on. Once again, lively at the rear. The smallest of gaps for Gullis to the inside. Got to be careful. Punju on the left. It's Greedy Me in the middle. I think Punju's been squeezed out of that one. Greedy Me to third. Gullis to fourth. Punju again just found himself in the wrong place at the wrong time, and now Zayla's caught them up as well.
Yeah, indeed. Solstice, by the way, is back down to P7. I think they've had to make a pit stop in all of that. We've been focusing on the battle, which continues to carry on as Alex Gillen is trying to storm away from this. Most people deploying their push to pass. But that's an unfortunate series of events. But Zella has the pace at the moment, and they are going to attack. P6 at the moment. I don't expect that to last. Punju going for an attack here on Hayden Gullis. Up the inside. Job done, but they've gone wide a little bit. Some contact made, I think, between the GR86 and Alex Gillen there as they are under pressure once again. So that's up to P5 for the moment. Hayden Gullis down to P6. The gaps will change every corner this lap, I think.
I think Gillen went off on his own accord there down into turn 1, just missed the braking zone. He's going to be under the cosh once again. Greedy Me, Punju, Zayla, Gullis all lining up to take a chunk out of Alex Gillen in second place there. Went for the move on the GR86, got it all wrong, locked up the fronts, locked up the rears, crossed up into the braking zone, but still occupying second place for the time being, having to thread the needle. There's 4 GR86s. Ada Pole's in there as well. Gillen to the inside of Pole in the Porsche, all the way around the outside. That is the definition of a long way around for Greedy Me, but he makes it work. Makes it work to some tune as well, because Punju, Zayla, Etal, Hayden Gullis still caught up in the traffic.
Yeah, Alex Gillen really lucky there. They did make contact with Aidan Pole, I could see, and you can see a tiny little bit of visual damage there on the front of that Porsche, and that was not the damage they did to Sparks. Oh, off in the background, I think that might be Zella off, I'm not quite sure, but there was, Zella is missing their front wing, but I think there was someone else called up. I think
Gullis round there. You can see stop. Zayla with no front wing, so they clearly went into the back of one of the cars in the train. Hyperstar into the pits as well, and this is what happened. So this is around the outside. Does he get a tag there, Gullis? No, I think, oh yes he does.
I think there was.
I think that's McGuinness potentially in the GR86 on the inside, and Gullis sent off into the pickets. There's the front wing loss for Zayla, having to get past Aidan Pole, surely be diving into the pit lane, and does, along with Brennan Hyperstar. So that leaves Alex Gillen out in front, but certainly not comfortable with Greedy Me right in the thick of that battle.
I wonder if the GR86 was collected by Zella, who went into Hayden Gullis at the same time, because I distinctly remember an Indy or two Indy cars there being caught up in that one. So Alex Gillen has got away with this a little bit for the moment, as Brendan Hyperstar has been in the pits as well. So a lot of drivers just deciding that they can't get the race fuel to the end without a significant amount of lift and coast. So it will be interesting to see if any driver sort of takes the risk to get it to the end. We've seen it before in Creator Series, and we will see it again. It's just a case of who will have the courage or just indeed nothing to lose to go for it. Grand Poubert has been in the wars at the moment, under attack now from Josh's corner after that previous incident. They are attacking Stormalina. You can see them, all three of them right there in the same shot. So this is the battle for P3, with Sparks and Aiden Pole quite a significant amount up the road.
Yeah, Pole 10 seconds clear of this group. Sparks a further 3 seconds in front of this group, with Pole still leading the GT3 class. Very bumpy over the curbs there. I think that's Stormalina going wide. Invitation sent out for Grand Poubert. It becomes the outside of the final corner, but just understeering. Off the road we go. Hands it straight back on a silver platter to the 007 Aston Martin. Now weaving to try and break the toe. I don't think Josh's corner is close enough to really make any real impression. Down into turn one. Got to be careful, because that's Hyperstar charging through as well in the IndyCar. He's now 26 seconds off the back of Gillen if he's going to win the IndyCar class. In the middle of the road is the Aston Martin of Stormalina. Grand Poubert in the BMW. It'll have to be the long way round. It's Stormalina that's braver under brakes. Well, Grand Poubert just rolls out the red carpet, waves the white flag. Josh's corner says, okay then, thank you for that one, mate. I'll help myself.
I think they're just recognising that the pace difference is a little bit too much. Grand Poubert definitely getting out of the way, and that's Solstice. And yeah, you can see the confidence isn't there. Maybe a problem, but it wouldn't make sense for them to lift off so much unless there's a brake problem, perhaps. But at that point, you don't want to have a brake problem around Fuji, of all places.
You absolutely don't. Lost 2 seconds to Stormalina, who was battling. So that's an interesting one. This is a replay of Sparks, who was still close to the back of Aiden Pole. Is the Audi going to loop this round? Is this why we've got a 6-second gap between the leading duo in the GT3 class over the curb? We know the Audi can be stiff. Wow, almost launched into orbit there. The Sauces curb through turn 14. And Sparks doing a decent job to keep it out of the wall. Is going to rejoin out of the lawnmower tracks in the grass. It's Stormalina around the outside. Sparks is going to hold on to this one. And obviously we saw what happened in the battle between Josh's corner, Grand Poubert and Stormalina. But for the time being, Sparks did drop behind them for a little bit.
Yeah, I'll rate that a 6 out of 10, Kansei Dorifto, but not ideal for Sparks there, as they do somehow manage to regain P3 in all of that, but, sorry, P2 in all of that, but it does make their job a little bit more difficult. As you can see, they have created a gap once again, so yeah, a lot going on here. That's Amphicephalosis defending from Joshima's, so everybody getting a little bit more argy-bargy as the laps go down. They know that track position counts over everything, and I must say it's great to see Joshima's having a bit more of a good race here. There's been a few mistakes obviously, but they're getting the hang of it, and they're definitely increasing the pace, which is very nice.
100%. Still battling away hard over 6th and 7th with Encephalosis. There's a further 30 seconds back down the road, so no need to worry about what's going on behind. In the Indy class, it's still Alex Gillen out in front as through goes Hayden Gullis, I think that is, darting from left to right to find his way through. Greedy Meat a second off the back of Gillen. Both of these two are going to be thinking about the fuel situation now. Brendan Hyperstar has actually lost time since he's come out of the pits. He was 26 seconds, now 27 and a half off the back of Gillen. So if the 77 car has got enough fuel in the tank, this could be coming up Alex Gillen.
Well, it reminds you of the old Formula 1 strategies, doesn't it? Of the fact of doing the overcut. If you have a fuel tank that you need to refuel, you want the least amount of fuel in the car to go faster, a bit like a qualifying lap, really. So the strategy with these, or in theory, the strategy that goes the fastest is to stay out the longest, and then you can use the low race fuel to set lap times about 1.5 seconds faster per lap. This is the battle in GR86. Kyle McGuinness defending from, I don't know which one of the cars. There's two with the same livery, but that is indeed, yes, Timo trying to attack, and you can see with the lack of aero, you just have to put it alongside and then do the battle through multiple corners. And so when you go on the brakes, you've just got to defend that inside line. Carl McGuinness going a little bit wide. That'll give him the inside. And the switchback is so much easier in these GR86s. And to the inside goes Timo. And will get the maneuver into turn 13. Very long turn 13 off camber. Same for turn 14. You've just got to stick it in there. Hope that you don't get any understeer. Carl McGuinness just demonstrating the perfect defensive strategy, it must be said.
Oh, and there's just the space there for the IndyCar of Punju, that is, to slip down the inside. McGuinness doing a good job. There was contact a couple of times, notably down into 6. You can see there, that was Punju with 2 wheels up in the air over the sausage curve coming out of the final corner. This battle's going to resume with the Amgal not too far behind, just waiting in the wings to the tune of 3/4 of a second off the back of the driver in position 5. You see how strong the draft and the toe and the slipstream is on the run down into turn 1. The bump drafting is going to continue, though, as team are just giving the love tap to the back of Carl McGuinness as these guys start a new lap. Long way back is Ben Shirley. They've got to be careful, though, because down the inside we go. I think that is Brendan Hyperstar trying to make up for time. And yes, they give the IndyCar quite a wide berth.
Yeah, indeed. It's so tricky when you're trying to anticipate where these GR86s are going, because they can just go for the inside line at the last second, like we've seen on the previous lap there. The gaps in the GR86s have been definitely increasing, and we haven't seen the big battle so far. As we see the battle here, once again, Josh's corner in 3rd place, defending from Storm Molina. Sparks has gone up the road once again. The pace of the front 2 in GT3 has been amazing this race, and so it has become a battle for P3, but just not quite close enough for the slipstream there. You can see about 5-6 car lengths, and unless Josh's corner is going to make a mistake, you're not close enough to make anything happen right there. And Grand Poubert, although giving up time previously, they've actually managed to stick with the 2 in front of him.
Look at this, 2 leaders in the Indy class are in, so they couldn't make it to the end of the race with what was left in the pipes. And I think Punji, who's dropped 12 seconds to them, is going to be diving into the pit lane as well. So this should open things up for Brendan Hyperstar to resume the race lead on lap 38, with Gillen and Greedy Meat falling 3 laps short.
Punju carries on, so Punju's obviously determined to get to the end. And
he's
yeah,
dropping 7 seconds a lap at the moment, so he's clearly in hyper fuel con mode.
but is he doing that and anticipating that Brendan Hyperstar will catch up, but then he can defend? I mean, we've seen some pretty good tactics from Punju so far this season, so who knows? Who knows? Maybe they're even fighting for just a P2 or a P3, and they've just decided to stick it out there. So Brendan Hyperstar, as you said, that you can see visually catching right now, just absolutely on the limit. They will have the advantage of fresher tyres as well with that pit stop. You can see the gap's closed by at least 5 car lengths and whatsoever. It's looking like Punju won't even put up a defence. Round the outside, you can see the lift and coast there. Brendan Hyperstar retakes the lead of the race.
2.5 to go. Hyperstar back up into first position as Punji tries to nurse this as far as he possibly can. If you remember back to the season opener at Road America, Punji ran out of fuel up the hill on the run to the line. Always had to get out and push his IndyCar over the line. Came home in P2 eventually, but by the whisker, the length of a whisker. Kept that second place in his grasp behind Reska Kyosa, but I think Brendan Hyperstar going to check out now into the distance and confirm and consolidate a second win of the season for himself in the Indy class for number 10, doing a very strong job, especially since Zayla, well, all of the issues that befell Zayla with the long pit stop, the contact with Gullis and the damage and everything that's just gone wrong in the second half of this race. Battle still for what I think we're still going to call second place, even though Punji occupies it at the moment because they're catching at a rapid rate of knots. This is Solstice, Gillen, Greedy Me. Gillen with the fresher tyres, looks to the outside. Solstice goes defensive, but Gillen, wily old fox, knows what he's doing. Can he try and get the drive out of turn 1 to maybe challenge into 3 up the hill? But I don't think he's quite close enough on this occasion. Needs to keep his wits about him, though, because once again, still underneath his rear wing is Greedy Me.
Punju dropped 2 seconds on the main straight to this pack, so he's going to run out of time, really, or run out of distance, is Punju, as they've gained a little bit more. So Solstice under a little bit of pressure here, which won't help the pace particularly. They've done 8 laps on their tyres, so the 2 behind, that's Alex Gillen and Greedy Me, will have the fresh tyres even compared to Solstice. So there is Punju. Punju has been caught already, so they need straight line speed here. And I don't think it's happening. That's Joshima's as well, hampering the pace. Oh, it's been a disaster for Punju. Around the outside goes Solstice. Solstice now gets pushed out, nearly collected by Joshima's Alex Gillen up into P3 at the moment. Solstice rejoins, and now Greedy Me gets blocked by Joshima's. Joshima's not obliged, let's say, to get out of the way. They can just keep their racing line. And look at the speed difference. Punju just too much fuel saving. The strategy has not worked out, and Alex Gillen goes through. Solstice goes through, and Greedy Me will go through as well.
And Cephalosis and was playing with fire there, ducking back into the slipstream of the Mercedes, darting back out over to the right-hand side as well, and does reclaim that second spot with Greedy looking to the inside behind Solstice. It was a freebie, wasn't it? Beginning of this contact, round goes Solstice. Was that contact with Greedy? Was it the GR86, which was in the thick of the action as well? Whatever happened, it's a podium thrown down the drain for the 27 car. We'll have a look. This is Greedy Me blasting past the GR86, so it wasn't the Toyota Revolt. There's another one coming through. I think it is going to be Greedy Me. No, just drops it on their own. So under pressure there, Solstice braking too late, looping the car around and handing the podium on a silver platter to Greedy Me.
It's a track where you need quite a balanced rear brake bias to get the rotation into these fast-flowing corners. But the problem is, as Alex Gillen gets caught behind the GR86 there in the background, but the problem is that if you really push the tires or the rear tires too hard in the braking zone, you will just spin around. So for Brendan Hyperstar on this final lap, it has been cruise mode. They've been dropping a little bit of time, keeping it safe. But as they round out the final corner, what can you say? It's been a strategy of brilliance. Maybe not the fastest pace today for Brendan Hyperstar, but he's kept it clean, kept it out of problems, and he will cross the line once again to win a race. It's been a tantalizing event, but Brendan Hyperstar is the one that has made it all work as he crosses the line and gets the well-deserved champagne. Alex Gillen will cross the line in P2, and it looks like the timing has gone a little bit awry there, so I think that's Greedy Me P3 at the moment, but Solstice might have had a little bit of contact there in the last couple of corners.
I think Solstice catching up to the back of Punju. May have been a little bit of contact there as the 13 was still in hyper fuel con mode. Punju does manage to squeak it over the line, but ended up 10 seconds off the back of Hyperstar, who was the personification of perfection, I think is the best way to put it for Brendan Hyperstar. Second win of the season in class for himself, doing a sterling job, as has this man, Aidan Pohl. Didn't get the win last week. First time this season he's failed to see the checkered flag in first, but he rights the wrongs of Indy Road, and he'll come through the final few corners. It wasn't the cleanest race of all time. Turned around on the opening lap. A little bit of contact a couple of times with Sparks as well, but he won't care one jot about it, because for the final time, as he plants his foot to the floor of the Porsche, little bit too wide through the final corner. But once again, he won't care, because Aidan Pohl will return to the top step. That is 3 out of 4 for him so far this season, and Aidan Pohl making that first place his own. The reigning champion Sparks will come home in second behind, 8 seconds off the pace, with L. Bird leading the GR86s round the final corner to make it a win for the first time this season in that GR86 car, with Mir Rose 6 further seconds back down the road.
Confirmation there as well. Josh's corner has finished ahead of Storm Molina, and I think they're very happy about that. They've had a torrid season for the moment in that Ferrari, but it comes good for now, and that's Storm Molina going for the pirouettes. The Winter Olympics isn't over quite yet, and they're having a little bit of a party the other side of the globe in Japan, as you can see the wheel going absolutely crazy as they get rear-ended there. That's Grand Pooh and it's Des TV that have rammed into the back of the Ferrari. I think that's quite an expensive turn one right there.
That's what you love to see. Josh's corner delighted with that one as they vault over the tyre wall. We're going to see this celebration again as he's going to fly in to the pack that are just caught up in there, where it's actually Storm Molina that goes in full metal there. And we can see somebody upside down. Wheels are plenty all over the show. Carbon fibre confetti there, backed into the wall as Des comes through. Then Grand Pooh Bear adds to the action as well. It's the most expensive game of Rush Hour you've ever played, has just sat on the catch fencing there. One of the GR86s, along with Sparks, who finishes second for the second week running. But that, like I was saying with Josh's corner, delighted with that third place. And he should be. Was in the lead battle for some time, but held his nerve and does pick up a podium.
Yeah, It's been one of those events, I think, where you've just had to be consistent. We've had events this season which have been purely pace-based, but here it has been something else. Brendan Hyperstar, with utmost consistency, takes the race win with Alex Gillen 5.8 seconds adrift in P2. I'm sure he'll be happy with that. Greedy Me P3 as well, having a great result after a pretty torrid season as well. Punju missing out completely, 10 seconds adrift. He was in the lead of the race with 3 laps to go, but the fuel just couldn't make it to the end. Solstice, after a bit of a topsy-turvy last lap, is in P5. Hayden Gullis, the last of the finishers on the lead lap in P6. Again, that contact with a few laps to go, not helping out. Zella P7 as well, but not finishing the race on track. Aerotech retiring as well before the end, and Scotty Designs sadly meeting an early demise.
100%. We didn't see too much of Scotty after the trials and tribulations of the early stages. From the iRacing cars to the GT3s, it was once again Aiden Pole that finished atop the pile with Sparks third and Josh's corner, with Sparks second, I should say, and Josh's corner third. Only 8 finishes. Storm Molina just losing out on that podium, with Grand Puba and Cephalosis, Joshimas and Des all classified a lap down. But all of them put on a great show, didn't they? And that was a really, really enthralling one to watch. Maybe not the multi-class chaos that we were used to, but some really nice battles out there.
I think it was pretty chaotic from my point of view. So we'll have a look at the GRA6s. Elbird takes the race victory by 6.2 seconds from Mia Rose there. That was a heck of a drive, as you could say. And they just cruised out in front. You didn't see them after that. Gosh damn, in P3, the last driver on the lead lap of the GR86 is actually Carl McGuinness, I think, caught up in that battle with the Indy cars there, with DM Gal P5, Timo P6, Ben Serda P7. Flyer X in P8, the last person with 1 lap down. Osoy in P9, and then Clark P10, 12 laps down, a retiree of the session as well. So you say it wasn't argy-bargy, but looking at the results, there's a lot of cars that came into good contact, let's say.
100%. And another great one. We're going to move straight into the interviews, and once again, returning to the top step, Aiden Pole, we're in the GT3 class. They took it away from you last week, Aiden, but you're back on the top step, and that must be very, very satisfying.
That was super satisfying. That track is so much fun.
And in terms of the result today, there was a little bit of argy-bargy, let's say. So are you satisfied with the race win? Is there something you think maybe I could have done that a bit better?
Yeah, definitely could have made a smarter move. I'm going to have to review on some of what happened. I think there was probably more argy-bargy on both ends than there should have been between Sparks and myself. But we had a second go at it after the safety car, and it was much cleaner. So I feel like we had redemption with each other.
You've obviously driven a couple of different cars this season. You were in the Corvette early on, now you're in the Porsche. Just for people that are watching, what are the main differences between those cars? Maybe how do you have to adjust your own driving style?
So the main differences that I notice is the Corvette is mid-engine, so you're going to have a more stable car over an entire stint, and better weight on both of your outside tires making a corner, as opposed to the Porsche, which is rear engine. So you're really relying on utilizing the weight of the rear end to get power down to the ground, because it's sitting right on top of the rear wheels, which is great, but you don't have so much grip on your front tires. And the steering rack, if anybody's ever driven either of them, I'll give a quick example. The Corvette looks like this when you're turning, and the Porsche looks like this. So it's like you turn a lot more in the Porsche, which I personally enjoy. But yeah, very different cars, very different styles, but both super fun.
You were carrying the weight equivalent of a beaver in terms of weight, sort of ballast performance in the car this time out. Was that an effect on your performance, or did you not notice it at all?
Definitely noticed it on the straights. There's a couple of places as well where you don't actually get into the next gear that I would without a weight ballast. I typically would hit 5th gear heading towards turn 2. I didn't get close to it a single time. So the straight line speed is down significantly. You really feel it when you're chasing somebody and they're just like kind of pulling away from you, even if you get a good exit. So it's something to work with. But it's like it's fun to get used to. You have to make adjustments to the way you drive the car, angles of exits and such to maximize your result with it.
From the multi-class perspective, was this either more or less chaotic from a lapping car perspective or point of view from the previous few races?
It was like very calm, and then for 2 minutes it was like the world was crashing down around you. I think at one point I was like 4 wide with 3 Indy cars, and I was just bouncing between them. I honestly have no idea what happened in any of the multi-class madness. I typically have somebody in my ear telling me like, okay, car coming up. I had none of that today, so it was just like you would get hit a bunch for 2 minutes and then you're clear. It was insane. I got very lucky not to have died multiple times in that.
We combined the games across the Creator Series here. We've got iRacing and Pinball apparently this time out. But in terms of the next tracks, of course, there's great points for a championship. But how do you think the performance is going to either improve or be more difficult across the next tracks with that additional weight?
I think that weirdly, Daytona is typically a car where the Porsche is the best because of the way it takes curbs. But with the weight and how long of straights the oval on that track, I feel like that's going to hurt a lot. And that was really the only place left, I feel like, where the Porsche was really strong. Fuji was one of them. So to get a good result here was important. But I feel like should Suelio turn up to the next races, Suelio, excuse me. I actually messaged him, and I think he just missed this race, which is fantastic for me. Extends my lead dramatically, and I might need that.
Wow. Fingers crossed that we can see some more lovely battles between yourself and Suelio for the rest of the season. Thank you for dropping by. Congratulations on yet another victory for yourself, and we'll see you in a week's time for the special event, hopefully.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, Aidan. Now, from the winner of the GT3s, we're going to head over to the winner of the IndyCars. Once again, a multiple winner from this season. Brendan Hyperstar jumping in. Brendan, from the outside, it looked like for the majority of that race, you had it pretty much covered. Maybe at the end where there were the slightly differing fuel strategies, you just had to think on your feet a little bit.
Yeah, I was like kind of yelling, screaming internally because I was starting to think it was a Road America situation of the first race of the season, the question came out right in the middle of the window, where it was a pretty relatively easy save for IndyCar standards. And I finished like 4th in that race, and I was kicking myself because I knew I could have saved the fuel and kept my pace there. So when I came out here, I brought up my dash. I'm like, yeah, that's a big save if you pit right away. And I was already at the front. I was only on like 4 lap old reds, so they still had pace in them, plus clean air. So I figured I might as well just stay out, build a gap, and see what happens, because I kind of made my bed there, and thankfully it worked out. But I was about to get really almost irrationally upset, but it worked out in the end.
We saw a lot of contact today between, well, various cars and car classes. How much of a benefit to you was it to keep it clean and sort of avoid the incidents? Was it more to do with your pace, or was it more the consistency today that won the race?
I definitely, I wouldn't say it was a definite pace advantage, because like the beginning stint, the times are pretty equal to me in the leader. So, and they were doing great in traffic as well. So I think what it eventually kind of came down to was, I don't know, I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong, but Zilo, the leader at the time, they pitted, and I guess they got a speeding penalty or maybe an unsafe pit entrance, because you have to keep within those lines in that little S section entries. So, and after that, I had a pace gap to the rest of the field, and then, I was ultimately able to control the red tire pace as well. That was my main concern, was especially in the third sector, you can easily roast your fronts, and you're already roasting your rears in the 2/3 of the beginning of the track. So, when I was on like the worn reds and pulling away, I knew I had a pretty good advantage.
We spoke to Hayden before the race started. He said that he felt that on this configuration of circuit, it might be a little bit harder getting past the GT3s in particular, maybe less so the GR86s. From your perspective, did you struggle with that any more or less than the past couple of weeks?
Oh yeah, 100% he's right, because the GT cars reach the same top end speed that the Indy cars do. We reach our top end speed like right at the pit out, and they reach their top end speed right at their braking marks. So it's, for like a grade 1 circuit, it's one of the longest straightaways, and it was pretty much equal top speed. And then the last sector, I mean, that's all mechanical grip, and it was basically the same pace from GT cars and Indy cars. Indy cars obviously slightly faster in acceleration, so you had to kind of wait behind them and then just gun it out of corner exit, hoping they just take their normal line, like kind of standard multi-class racing. And all the lower classes were doing that too, so I didn't have too much trouble. I think there's like only one time where I did make contact with a car, but like I'm sending this tiny little car into I think it's the turn that's called Coca-Cola. It's right before 100 R, where the Toyota had no idea I was there and turned in. And that was really the only like negative interaction I had, but that one was clearly on me because there's no way he could have seen me.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of drivers referencing the long, fast-flowing corners are very difficult to spot, especially in the GT3 cars, because some of them have screens on their dash which impede the vision. Looking forwards, though, we have the special events coming up with the cross carts. Are you looking forward to that one? Are we going to see your participation in that one? And have you done any practice in that?
Oh yeah, I'll be there. When the cross cart came out, I just posted a video of it driving on like asphalt tracks and saying like, I don't care that this thing's like an off-road car. I'm making this like my own mini Indy car. It almost sounds like one, even though it's a motorcycle engine and Indy car's a V6 turbo, right? But so I haven't actually done any really serious racing with it. The first track I drove it was like the Tsukuba 1000 track, which is almost a go-kart track. It's that small. So no, I'm looking forward to it. I really do enjoy that car. It's a challenge, and I don't think I'm going to be the fastest one in that car next week. So we're going to have to really earn a good finishing position with that.
Well, hopefully it'll be a hell of a lot of fun, I think is the best way to put it. Thank you for chatting to us this evening. Brendan, congratulations on yet another victory for yourself. And next week, wish you the best of luck in what might be a little bit chaotic.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brendan. And that pretty much wraps things up for us. We're going to have a quick look at the standings to see how things have changed. And it has just closed up ever so slightly with that Brendan Hyperstar victory in the Indy class. They, himself and Chester, move up into joint second place as Resicioso and Ancephalosis remain 5 points away from Hayden Gullis and Suelia Almeida. 83 problems, but a corner ain't one. Level with Sparked by Designs, by the way. Polnoodle.sim still there in sixth, but only 20 points down. If you look from first to eighth, very, very tight.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this championship could go any way at all. And it just happens that some drivers maybe don't participate in one race, and it just closes the pack up once again. So that's extra spicy. And it just emphasizes how in a team you have to have two drivers regularly scoring points. I was saying about Ancephalosis having a bad race. He had a good race today. And that means that the points they're in joint second place at the moment. They're right back in it. And so approaching the half distance in the championship, it still can go anybody's way, I think.
Second half of the season is going to be fascinating, isn't it? Because when you've got so many contenders and so many external variables with the team aspect, that could be a lot of fun. Make sure you tune in every Thursday to this series for the rest of season 3. But that is pretty much it from us this week. Thank you ever so much for spending your morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the world, with us watching some classic multi-kart chaos. Before we go, John, where can people find you on the old social medias if you are interested in what you are up to?
Well, you can find me crashing into a tree for a start. That's my usual thing. Or commentators cursing someone, which is also my second thing. You can find me anything that is amusing, and it usually involves some sort of car crashing, so you'll be sure to see me there.
Excellent news. Make sure you get on that one. If you're interested to see what I'm doing, wilco.coms on Instagram and TikTok. We'll be back next week for the first of two special events, the Cross Kart Carnage. That should be a barnstorm. And then 2 weeks' time, the main championship resumes as we stay in Japan at Okayama. Another very technical circuit. Very interesting to see which car will come out on top, which driver will be suited most to the needs and the desires of that configuration of circuit. But thank you very much for watching us this evening. Make sure you check out next week's special event. But from myself and John, we will see you very, very soon. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and it is goodbye from us.